Okay, so I've added some fillets around the car, trying to make it look a little bit nicer. Something to keep in mind for a cadet or a development class car is the cutter is locked at 6mm diameter. So when you're adding any fillets on internal surfaces, like the junction between here and here, good idea to aim for at least 3, because that's what the car will look like. It can't cut smaller than 3. I added a variable 1 on the back here to taper that as small as possible, and I've also tidied up my 1 on the nose, and I'm ready to continue. Next thing we're going to do is to set up where we want our axle hole to be, and we're going to make that so it's all dynamic and can be updated later on as well. First thing we're going to do is create a new plane on the outside of the car. So we will offset a plane and we will hover over, just check that's the right one, our center plane, and we'll bring that out 32.5, because that's the very outside of the block. This is an excellent plane for us to draw our front and rear rings on, and also cut our axle with. So we're going to start a 2D sketch on this plane. Camera should switch around for us like it has. Okay, first thing we're going to do is project some geometry. We're going to project the bottom of here, and we're going to project this line here. These are going to be our 2 reference points. From there, we can do a line from the center up. I recommend starting with something like 10. Doing this, you can always change it later on. And then we're going to have a circle, single diameter. That's how big it needs to be for the grommets to fit in. And then our actual wheel is going to be 33. Now, I'll tidy this up by making this a construction line. So that's where a rear wheel is going to fit. And now we will extend a line from the center of here horizontally somewhere out here. That's a construction line. And once again, circles at 6 and a circle at 33. Almost done. Only thing we need to do is to make sure that we have our 15mm gap between where the side pod starts and the wheel. So we're going to do one more construction line. We're going to snap it from between these 2 and down. Doesn't really matter how long it is. Make it a construction, and then we can dimension that to be our minimum of 15. Okay, everything is constrained. I think one of our other lines isn't constrained, but in terms of our actual wheels, everything is locked into place. We can just make sure that one's horizontal, which it already is, so we'll cancel that error. That's where our 2 wheels are going to sit. We have room for a front wing here. If we didn't, we can always come and shorten this side pod, or move both the wheels back, something like that, because our 15mm spacing will remain. And we shall finish that. We'll finish with this work plane, so let's turn off visibility, and we're ready to extrude from there and there, and we'll make sure it's set to cut. We'll set it through all. Excellent. Okay, there are axle holes which we'll later use to line up where the wheels are. Now let's look at the beauty of our system. We'll save this before we do anything else. The very first body sketch, and decide that I want to move the wheel further towards the rear car because the side pod's too small or something like that. I can drag this wheel, make everything at tangents and looking good. Finish the sketch, everything should update, hopefully with the error, and it moves back and everything's updated. If I was to do the same thing in 123D, that would be an absolute nightmare to edit. So I'll undo that, put it back where it originally was, but you get the idea. You see our axle hole moved, our positioning of the bodywork moved, all from dragging where we want it, that original sketch down here. Everything's dynamic from this point onwards. Makes it much, much easier to use. Okay, now we might draw our rear wing. We're going to start a 2D sketch, and we're going to hover over work plane 2. Doesn't need to be visible for us to use it. We're going to go pretty safe for this since it's cut out of folder. It's easy to snap off during machining if you make them too small. So to get the basic shape, you of course can be much more adventurous. We're going to do a rectangle and do arcs, and then we shall make the lines we no longer need construction lines, so they don't affect when we're extruding. Minimum thickness is 3.5. We're going to go 5 to be safe. Front to back, minimum is 15. We're going to go 16 just to be a little bit safe. And then we should be able to, don't want that, just escape. Drag this and move this wherever we want to into place. In this, leave it floating because the dimensions that matter have been locked in. Now we can sketch and extrude from it. And once again, instead of doing a distance, we're going to change it through to next. No matter what happens with that canister now, it's always going to end on there. Okay? You'll notice when we spin around the camera from the back, it's not intruding inside. So we can move that sketch forward, back, angle, whatever we need to do, and it will take to a nice spot. One last thing we might do is add a fillet around here, 3mm again. Excellent. Now we know we have a rule over the width of this, so good time to visit the distance tool from in here. That line, 16.3, you can check the rules and make sure that that's as wide as you need it to be. Excellent point to save our work, or we continue with the next segment.